your booth the whole time, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be a busy year. We don't. I have no idea how we're even going to do it all because every time I turn around, Mel's agreeing. She's agreeing to start another shoot that we're going to. Like I just
We don't do things like
we're
that.
going to Vegas now, and we're
Not Vegas, Reno.
Reno. We're going to Reno on
Maybe
on one of the shoots there. So it's going to be a. I actually just started getting my tags for hunting this year. I've got brothers I got to take out. It's going to be a crazy year.
So it definitely sounds like one of those years where you can just say, yes, we agree. We'll come to Blacktail, like full send. We're already doing that across the board. We might as well just go for it. I like it. I like the way that sounds.
Yeah.
I love it there though. Like, oh, there's no prettier place. And last, was it 2 years ago when I went up, my mom was supposed to come with us and like take us around. And I mean, a lot of her family still lives there. She grew up on the Flathead Indian Reservation in St. Ignatius. So she was going to come up and we were going to go around and see like her family, and she was going to show us where she grew up. And I mean, I've been there, but not for a couple of decades. So, but then they ended up having a vacation that same weekend. So it was just me and the kiddos, but we'd like to do that with her one of these days. So.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's a fun shoot.
Very good.
So yeah, I guess we can go ahead and kick this off. Welcome to the School of Hard Knock podcast once again. And we are here with some awesome guests. Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Excuse me. We are Mel and Kel from Eppich Archery Unleashed. Do you want to know what we do?
Well, right now,
is all about.
Currently, I've just been battling the deep-seated dad need to use epic as a pun over and over and over again. I'm like, don't do it. Don't do it.
So honestly, I don't. So Texas, what's his name? The bow shop. Corbin from Corbin's Archery. You guys know him? He if you listen to all of his stuff, dude, he uses epic so much, and I'll send him a message every time he does it. Dude, you just did it again. You just did it again.
It's kind of
happens a lot.
It's kind of fun when you're in a group and you're like, epic kids, it's time to go. And everybody kind of like stops. And they're like, oh, right.
Go ahead and finish the introduction.
So we do a lot of different things. Eppich Archery was kind of born out of, I don't know, tragedy is kind of a big word, but archery was something that came into both Kel and I's life later on. We're late onset archers, and it ended up being something that really shaped our relationship and kind of saved us at a point. And then a few years in, I went to upgrade bows and ran into all sorts of roadblocks and walls, and it was a really kind of awful experience. I spent a few days crying in the car after leaving a shop that didn't have anything that I could shoot, or they weren't really willing to work with a woman, and that was frustrating. And so at that point I was kind of like, I'm done with archery. This is dumb. I don't want to do it anymore. And Kel was like, well, you can't really give it up. So I decided that if I couldn't give it up, I wanted to help change things as much as one person can change things for women and kids in this demographic. And so that became kind of a snowball. We started social media, we started doing YouTube videos, and then that snowballed into us both getting certified as instructors. And now I run youth and women's programs in the Utah area. We've traveled around with Mountain Archery Fest. This year we have some things in the works, potentially with some other shoots to do some really cool things. But really I run a ladies league during the school year and a youth development program. And then I also run a 3D league for women through the summers. And then this summer, I'm really excited. I get to go out with Courtney from Her Outdoor Journey and help her run one of her camps in Utah. So yeah, we really have, our mission is to help build a place for everyone, women and children, and bring families into the sport. and it's been a really wild, fun ride. Do you have anything to add to our introduction?
It has been fun. It has been a fun wild ride. One of the archery events that we're actually working with right now, we're trying to do something that no archery event does, and it's specifically geared toward women and families, because we found that even though I like going out with guys and hunting and enjoying myself, we found that if you can get a woman involved, the whole family comes with her. And it's been super cool that way, because it's created an avenue in which we can reconnect as husband and wife, but also our family gets involved, which I think is a lot of the reason that things for Eppich Archery got so big so fast, is because we're super family based and we take our kids everywhere, and everyone's like, how the heck do you do this? Like, it's crazy. You have your kids with you. And so it's been this huge avenue for us to grow closer together as a family. But also, like Mel said, we've met some amazing people. We've done some amazing things that we never thought we would do. And it's all based off of the fact that we wanted to find and do something together. And archery just happened to be that thing. And then after some bad experiences, it drove us into this tailwind of how do we make things better for everybody. And so we just went into this huge journey of trying to fix not something that's broken, but that might have been skewed a little bit. And it's been super cool, a lot of fun.
And it's evolved a lot. Like in the beginning, we had big dreams of opening a bow shop, which is still kind of in the works. Right now, we really want to, at some point, open up the Eppich Archery Training Center and having a very female youth focused shop connected to that carries things that are very user friendly for those demographics. And then having a place where people can come and learn and train. But all of that has kind of, it's gone back and forth based on opportunities that have come our way. We've been able to go to ATA, and we've been able to travel with big 3D events, and there have been several things that have just kind of altered our path along the way, which has also been really cool and beneficial for us. So
yeah, that's really cool. The focus on bringing families into it, doing things as a group and whatnot. It's like you really find out fast kind of how underserved as a group, the whole family is pretty quickly. The distance that people are willing to travel to do a family style event is definitely really impressive. So so you guys got into archery, and Kel, you do hunt, right?
Yes, yeah. So I grew up hunting. I grew up in the middle of nowhere in Washington State. So I grew up mostly just rifle, shotgun. I've elk hunted my entire life. Never really super successful. My dad didn't know a lot about hunting. So I think I shot 2 deer growing up. Never shot an elk. I hunted elk for 10, 11 years. Never got an elk, but mostly upland bird. Pheasants, geese, stuff like that, waterfowl, and then
varmints.
But it's just been within the last 4 years I started hunting, and like most archers, you think you're gonna jump. I started hunting with a bow, and most archers, you think you're gonna jump in and get something right away. It's a challenge. I mean, it's not like shooting a deer from 500 yards with a rifle. You're walking into something that you have no idea. And I went out on my own the first year. I got close to a couple deer, but never got even a shot off. And then I went out with a buddy the next year. I shot a coyote the next year. That was my first kill with my bow, was a coyote at 65 yards. And then from there it snowballed. I got my first archery buck this last year. I shot a 3-point this last year. Super cool.
With our kids.
My 2 oldest kids were there. So our 2 oldest kids are super excited. They've got turkey tags this next year. They've got elk tags this next year. They both have deer tags. We all have cougar tags because we live in the mountains. So I've got a buddy that runs dogs, and we're gonna go cougar hunting this next year. So this next year is gonna be a big one. But yeah, last year was my first archery kill. And it was the whole buck fever thing. Never felt anything like that. The most amazing feeling. It was I was just shaking. It was awesome. So.
Oh yeah. And you said you had your kids with you for that?
Yeah. Yep. We were all standing, and the deer quartered me at about 35 yards, and they were losing their minds.
And what was kind of amazing and beautiful is they just hiked up from our house. So I mean, they were a hike up from our home. And I had gone up and hiked because we were looking the night before. It was actually on his birthday too, which is pretty cool. But we had hiked up the night before, which was our daughter's birthday, and had scouted and we saw a few that came down, but we lost light too fast. And I started not feeling so great. So I was actually at home kind of in bed sick. And I hear like the door open and my daughter's like, Mom, Mom. And I, as a mom, you kind of panic. And I sat up in bed and she's like, Dad got a deer, Dad got a deer. So she had actually run back down all the way down to our house. And we were able to hike up to where it was. And it was pretty cool as a family. There were lots of really amazing, tender mercy things that happened with that deer that taught us a lot of humility and gratitude and respect for nature and the animal and what it can do, not only for us, but others. And it was a really neat experience.
We fed quite a few other people with the deer meat. So, we processed it that day, worked through that day, cleaned it up. I had a bunch of people that we gave meat to. Like, it was the coolest experience. It's almost like a spiritual experience. It's weird, but taking that animal's life that close to it, it was an instant kill. It dropped right where I hit him, and being able to dress him out right there, have my kids with me, and then bring that meat down and process it and then share it with people. We had the back straps on the smoker that night. It was just a cool experience. The kids, nothing like I've ever experienced before hunting in my life. And it just lit a fever, and my kids are so excited. They will not let it go. It's like taking your kids fishing for the first time. They expect you to catch a fish.
So the expectations were high.
They were high.
So how's that going to play this year with them having elk tags? Like, what's the? Is it an archery hunt for them, or is it a rifle hunt for their elk tags?
Yeah. So in Idaho, where we're at, so it's all general unit. With their tag, they get an A tag, so it's an archery tag. But so it's a general hunt during archery season. They can shoot a bull or a cow with their bows, and then into October they actually can do rifle, and they can still shoot a bull for elk, and then they can do muzzleloader with that same tag or any weapon late season hunt in November.
So it's pretty similar to Montana's elk tag.
Yes.
Yeah. Our expectation is obviously like Brody and our oldest two definitely have a lot of work to put in. Our oldest is a pretty good shot, and his draw weight is getting close to where we would want him to be, but he's not quite there yet. So my middle daughter got so excited. We have what's supposed to be the workout room, but it's been like the bow storage room in our house since we moved in.
Since she has like 30 bows.
Same.
Yeah, right.
Right? So I came home yesterday and she had cleaned out, like all the bows are now in our living room. And she set up like her workout area, and they're like determined that they're gonna
pull the poundage they need to pull, and it's also cool because the specific reason that we moved where we did, I'm sure you guys know, we just finished our house, but we moved in the mountains specifically to get more involved in archery and to create the next step of our whole goal here. And what it also did is we actually hunt, our unit that we're in is a general unit for us. And we have 2, sometimes 3 herds of elk, and they just circle the mountain ranges around us. So we don't get to go and we could, but we don't go and do the elk camp where we have to drive 3 hours away, 4 hours away. we actually sleep here. We get up at 3:30 in the morning and we start hiking. And so we just leave from here at our house, and usually we can get to a herd of elk within a couple hours, hour and a half or so of hiking.
That's pretty good. Thing that we've always talked about, especially with School of Hard Knocks, talking to new hunters, everyone wants to know poundages, right? So you guys had mentioned the poundage you want the kids to pull. Can I ask what those are, and could you explain that, like your reasoning behind that? Just, pretend I don't know anything about archery.
So in Utah, when we lived in Utah, the poundage for an entry level or for someone that's wanting to hunt went from 40 pounds to 35 pounds, 35, 38 pounds was where.
Actually, Utah's 30 right now. So for youth, you can pull 30 and still draw a tag. Like you can legally shoot something at 30. Idaho is pretty similar. Obviously, with our position where we're at, ethics is a really big deal for us and teaching our kids ethics. And we work really hard with them. I mean, we're taking them to all these shoots. We're trying to get them to put in the time and real understanding of like what it takes. And obviously I think right now Brody's at 35. So our oldest is at 35. Our middle daughter could probably outdraw him, honestly. She's tough.
Strength-wise. Yeah.
But distance is going to be the really big kicker. Like they're going to have to get really close. So our goal would be that it would be really cool for them to get something archery-wise. But the realistic avenue is that they'll hunt archery season with Kel. Kel hopefully potentially will get something archery, and then their tags are good into rifle. And my expectation is that will probably be, because I don't know that we'll get them close enough. They're both, the oldest one especially is.
And you're not putting a lot of faith in me, are you? Nice.
I have a lot of faith in you.
It took me 12 years to kill 15 years to kill my first bull with a bow.
Yeah. Well, see, so I want to step back just a little bit. So the thing that I've told the kids, especially Brody, he's our oldest. The thing I've told him was, I said, I will let you shoot as long as you are hovering around 40 pounds. I will let you shoot as far as you can hit the target within a 4-inch circle. I want you to shoot up to 5 to 6 arrows, and you have to hit every one of those arrows within the middle of that circle.
Before we'll let
you take a shot at an animal that far. And so, honestly, I think, and it's very touch and go with a lot of people, but I feel like beyond 35 yards, 35, 40 yards is getting to the point where I feel like that's too far for my kids. I need them somewhere within that 30, 35 yards is probably max shot distance for that poundage. I feel like the capabilities of the arrows and the broadheads and the bows, the efficiency, I feel like we're fine doing that. Now, that being said, shooting at an elk, I'd rather have them around 20 yards. Where I know they're going to hit it. I know that they've practiced enough at 20 yards. And so that's kind of going into this first year of them actually hunting with their bows. A lot of it's going to depend on accuracy, like how they're shooting, how much time they're putting in, and then what their draw weight is. Brody could probably go up another 5 to 7 pounds right now. So that'll put him over 40 pounds. Which I know a lot of women, and we have a bunch of older men in our club that take an elk every year at 40 to 45 pound draw. Mm-hmm. And so I feel comfortable there. My daughter, accuracy wise, I feel like if I can get her to 38 pounds, we just put her in a new bow, so it's a little bit heavier for her. She's just getting comfortable with it. But I feel like if I can get them both right around that 40 pound mark, I think I'm feeling comfortable keeping them within a 20 to 30 yards, which I feel like is very doable.
Yeah.
But that's where I feel comfortable. Some people may not. But that's where I feel if they shoot a shoulder, obviously there's always that concern.
You're not going to beat a shoulder. I shot a bullet 23 yards with my long draw and 73-pound pull. Yep. You're not going to beat that shoulder. It doesn't matter what you're pulling.
Right.
So, what broadheads are you going to have them running? Do you know?
Well, last year I ran the Annihilators, and I also ran the Muzzy trail cars. And the reason I ran the Muzzies is because they're so easy to get. I ran 125 grains on the Muzzies and 100 grain on the Annihilators. Annihilator just came out with a new head. It has that the fixed tube blade with the bleeders on the side. I've actually flirted with moving over to the iron wheel broadhead, and I'm gonna be truthful. It's more of kind of a fanboy thing because they're so out there, right? Like they're a cool looking broadhead. I mean, Cam Haynes is shooting them now. Like all these big names are shooting them. I've always liked the look. I just don't like the price tag that comes with them, and that's been my biggest concern. I mean, they really do stand behind their product, from what I understand. We've also got a buddy, that Handsome Rob. Do you know Rob Schneider? His last name Schneider, right? Yeah. Schneider. He does Rattler grips.
Yeah, Rattler grips. He's out of Texas.
Okay, so he just came out with the trifecta broadheads. And I've been flirting with getting some of his as well and doing all three of those and running those right off the bat the first of this year and just see where they feel.
And with our kids, we're going to do a lot of research. I don't know that we've put that time and effort in yet to decide what's going to be best for them. Last year when I was going to hunt but didn't end up doing that, we were really looking at the Annihilators just because of their design. And we spent a lot of time talking to them. I think that we just need, the honest answer is we need to put more research in for our kids, because we really want it to be something that is going to work for them at their stage right now. So
sounds like it's going to be more of the, not to, get ranch fairy on everybody.
Right.
But you guys are definitely leaning more towards a single blade broadhead. Fixed blade, obviously, for that low poundage. But that's. Do you happen to know what arrow weight roughly you're shooting for and speed wise? Just because I'm a math nerd.
The one I shot last year. It was 400, just over 450 grains.
What I meant for the kids. Sorry, Cal.
Oh, for the kids? Oh, I don't even know. To be truthful, I don't even know what they're shooting right now. To be honest, they're shooting a 28-inch.
They're shooting the Gold Tip Warriors.
But we're gonna put them into. I have a couple arrows right here. We're putting them into the Kinetic Pierce, probably this next year in a 500. And I think they're 6.9 grains per inch on the Kinetic Pierce at a 28-inch arrow with a 100-grain broadhead. So what's the math there?
28 times 6.7 plus 100.
Yeah.
287.
And then there'll just be a 3 fletch. So it's going to be right. It'll be probably floating right around just over 300 grains for their arrows.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
That's the best off the top of my head I could give you.
No, fair enough. Yeah, because Montana, we don't have draw poundage restrictions. We have arrow weight restrictions.
Okay.
You're not allowed to hunt with an arrow under, I think it's 300 or 350, Jed. Do you remember?
I think 300.
Yeah, 300.
It can't be under 350.
Yeah, so we'll probably be shooting at that 300 mark, and that's I hadn't really thought about that. I'm glad you brought that up. But yeah, for what they're shooting right now, to where we shoot a ton of the Gold Tip Kinetic Pierce is what is kind of like our arrow of preference, and so that's what we're going to start putting them in as they hunt, just for the micro shaft and the pass through capabilities and stuff like that.
Lower wind resistance.
Do we freeze? You
Nope.
freeze, right?
No,
Okay.
no, you're good. We're listening. We're just listening.
So that's kind of what I'm shooting for. Like I said, off the top of my head, I haven't built out any arrows from them because we're just getting through the first of the year. But I need to start looking into that because I got to figure something out as well for turkey season, because they're going to have turkey tags and that'll be up first. So, but yeah, we should be around that 300 grain per inch.
Cool.
So
yeah, I just looked it up. It's 300 grains, Ethan.
Okay.
And 20-inch overall length, which is an interesting set of requirements for the state.
Right.
I think they did that for crossbow.
The smaller arrows, I mean, we can't get those small arrows to fly worth anything. You know, for my kids to make them, we've had to leave everything just about the same length as what Mel and I shoot for them to actually fly.
It's a little different between you and I.
Well, for them to actually fly accurately out of their bows. So
we give them a little extra length just because it breaks down that shaft and gives them a little better chance at the correct arrow flight. Around here, it's really hard to get into anything under a 500 spine, and obviously our two oldest are getting into that 500 spine range, but we leave them a little long, break down that spine a little bit, get a little better arrow flight. That gives them a little bit more weight. So
awesome. Yeah. When you were talking about broadheads, I had thought that in Idaho it was illegal to use mechanicals, but apparently that just changed.
Yeah, no, you can here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, I think most hunters here stick with a fixed blade. Just, I don't know.
And I don't know, actually, I don't know.
Thing. For
you guys, what have you found broadhead wise that actually fly, not similar to a field tip, but fly well as far as a fixed blade?
You are opening up a can of worms asking that question. There are not enough hours left in the day.
Well, like I said, I did some G5s a while back. Like I said, I've probably shot 5 different broadheads over the last few years, and I just kind of I didn't jump into a huge. Arrows have never been we've never gone down that rabbit hole.
Because really, you could have a infinity long discussion about arrows too, you know, like the rabbit hole is long and deep and dark, and so
it also gets very polarizing.
It does.
Yes, it does. Yeah. Yes. We started with a kinetic. We didn't start with a kinetic pierce, but we ended up on the kinetic pierce. And they've just been phenomenal. And it's just a basic pierce. I've shot them for events. I've shot them for competitions. I've shot them for hunting, practice. Great outcome with these arrows. So really, we haven't strayed a whole lot from those. I've done a couple of other ones, but I'm shooting the new ultra arrows for competition right now. But to be honest with you, this kinetic pierce, the gold tips, we just haven't gone away from them because they're so awesome. And gold tip has just been awesome to us. Like, they've been amazing, and dealing with them has just been really. I mean, they're phenomenal. And so, we could go down the bow rabbit hole for days, because we bought 7 bows this year already, and ow.
Let me regroup.
Bows are
more of like a bow house.
Bows are a weakness for us, but arrows, you find something that works, and I don't want to change it because I hate sight tapes.
Well, there's a lot to be said. I know there's the always be tinkering mentality out there, but I recently switched arrows after shooting the same arrow for 10 years. We're Victory fans. Yeah. The only reason I switched is because they came out with the stainless steel weave. I wanted the tougher, bigger arrow, and now I'm shooting the new lift that's got 80-pound mods. So I'm 31-inch draw, 80-pound, 550 going 290. So I've kind of negated the whole argument on everything because I can't. I'm a big guy.
Yeah.
But to answer your
dreams of me.
It's nice. But to answer your broadhead question, Kel, it's Q80 Exodus. That's the only fixed I shoot. They fly pretty well out of the box, out of a well-tuned bow, just like your field points. Doesn't matter with helicals on your fletchings. They're a great 3-blade broadhead with replaceables. Budget friendly, awesome awesome head. That's what we shoot.
Well,
So
and
you can find it pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing that Ethan said too, that was kind of like a big change for us. Like, I don't make my own broadhead decisions. Ethan makes them for me. So there was a time when we were only shooting mechanicals, and then that, like, having a well-tuned bow being the deciding factor instead of the broadhead being the deciding factor is one of the things that Ethan cited as moving us in that direction.
Yeah, spitting, I take my bow in for a hunt ready tune every year at Straight Six here at our local shop. They strip it down. Jed does the same thing. Our bows are, I don't, like last year I took it in just for a quick paper too, and they shot it once, handed it back to me. It's like, you're fine, go away. So just we maintain our bows. Probably, I do it more than probably most people do, but that way I can screw literally whatever broadhead I want on, and I'm going to hit where I need to hit.
At this point, he almost seems like an employee of the local bow shop because he's just there.
Yes.
But
well,
we actually
are, so we're pretty fortunate that way. So we get to tinker with our bows we don't work a ton. We have a deal worked out with them, but we get to tinker with our bows a lot. So our bows are usually on. It's just anything else changing, arrows or broadheads or retunings. That's where it kind of goes down a rabbit hole. But yeah, we get to be a part of that too, and it's fun to watch how many guys come in right before hunting season. I haven't touched my bow all year. Can you just make sure it's working for me?
Nope, you should have done that in July, buddy.
It can get scary when they bring them in and they got threads are torn up on their strings, and it's like, dude, you need new strings. So it's fun to see, and it gets very, very busy in there, and that's usually when we work the most, is right before hunting season. So we try and help out the local bow shop and go in and work here and there. Mel does shifts and sets women up with bows and stuff.
They've been super awesome. Like, that was one of the big blessings. We've seen several, like, in opening our own archery business in the midst of a lot of clubs. We've seen a lot of people who have done that, who have had a lot of pushback from the club because the club sees you as competition. Our local club in the Utah area has been so supportive, and we've both worked to build each other, which has been awesome. And the same with the local bow shop. They've done tremendous things for me in letting me come in whenever I want to. I can take women that I have set up in rental equipment, and they finally decided they're ready to buy a bow, and I go in and I get to also help sell them equipment. So they have this like experience all the way from their very beginning until they're all set up and ready to go. So that's been a really, really cool thing. The other thing, which was one of our big goals, was helping provide more equipment opportunity for those of us who are not as blessed with long draws and high draw weights, to have opportunities to shoot in a shop before we buy. The buyer at our local shop actually brought me in and let me order whatever bows I wanted, in whatever poundage I wanted, in whatever colors I wanted, so that they would be on the shelf. And for me, that was like one of the most humbling, beautiful experiences, that cool. They would give me the opportunity. And then I'd like to say hundreds of women who've had the opportunity to come in and shoot a flagship bow in a 50-pound limb, or to shoot multiple options rather than just walking in and having them say, well, here's the purple youth bow, let's take this home for you.
It's been super cool too, because a lot of the women will send Mel messages and pictures, and they want to show that, hey, I shot this buck this year. Or there's a couple of women that have gotten very intense about hunting since meeting with Mel, and it's been a lot. They just become family, and we get to see trips they go on, animals they kill. They take groups of them to these 3D to attack, and it's been so much fun to watch all that stuff and be part of their lives and their adventures. And
we've tried to have a very wide focus, so that whoever comes to us, I have one woman that works with me who's phenomenal. She's a world champion target archer. And then I have another woman who actually just started her own business similar to mine, but up until now. She's been helping a local club a little further south. But she's also come in and helped run some of my programming, and she is a very avid hunter. She solo hunts, and so I would bring her in. I would be there as like the very obviously and very recreational archery based, and then I had this professional target archer, so that whenever I had women come, I have all aspects, as well as the kids, to give them whatever perspective, wherever they want to be, a place to have a very direct contact with someone who knows what they're talking about, who can help them work towards whatever their goal is within the whole spectrum of archery, which has been a really cool blessing too. So
Yeah, it's super interesting. Like just the approach of the draw weight, you know, and like the equipment that you're using. I mean, I don't know a guy who's out shooting a bow that his bow isn't maxed out, right?
Yeah.
Like my bow goes up to, and that's where it's at. But Ethan and I witnessed a conversation. It was Sue when she picked up her Prima, right?
Yeah, it took.
So
yeah, we were there for 3 hours. No, yeah, we were there for 3 hours shooting different bows, but
no, different conversation. She was talking to another woman, and they were talking about the draw weights on their bows, and Sue had settled on the Prima because at her like strongest at the moment, it was shooting the fastest by far, but like counterintuitively, I guess it was the lowest draw weight of the 3 bows that she tried. I want to say she was shooting
it was
pretty fast at 44
pounds. So it came down to the Eclipse and the Prima when because the Gen 2, the Shockey Gen 2 was the same speed as her 20-year-old bow. So that went back on the shelf, and we had already agreed upon if you can't decide, you know, there's not an obvious winner when you're shooting it. Right. We're going to the math, and the Eclipse was at 48 and the Prima was at 44, and they're both shooting 405 going 240, but at 4 less pounds of pull.
Yeah,
right.
Out of the Prima. So she went to that, but
she had a conversation with another woman, and they were talking about their different strategies, and you know, this other person told her like, "Oh, well, you should have gone with this bow because I can pull back 65 on this." And we like had this conversation and heard
there's a reason.
Like, oh, yeah, well, she's shooting 65, but their arrow's going about the same speed.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, it was like plus or minus 5 feet, I think, and Sue's pulling 20 pounds less. It's like, okay, like that's awesome and all, but like the stronger she gets, like she's got so much more potential in this bow.
Yeah. Exactly.
If she starts lower and like kind of removing that ego of that weight number, and like Ethan said, like getting down to the math, like, yeah, it's a totally different approach.
I even got pulled into that last year. I bought the RX-7 because I went into Western Hunt Expo and they had them there, and everybody had been trying to tell me how great the RX-7 was, and so I was like, okay, so they set me up in it, and I pulled like 55 pounds, which is high for me. And I was just like, what? Like, I've never been able to get close to this. And I kind of got starstruck by that number. And I was like, oh, well, you know, like 55 pounds sounds phenomenal. Like, I've never been able to say to anybody I pull 55 pounds. And we didn't have a chronograph to check speeds or anything. And because of our situation, we can get into some bows a little bit less expensive. So both Kel and I ordered the RX-7. And when I got it, I shot it a handful of times, and even at 55 pounds, which is a significant increase from what my normal draw weight is, that arrow was not moving.
I think it was 15 to 18 feet per second
slower than what I'm pulling on my PSC.
On her PSC Mach 1.
So, and then it's heavier too, which I was like, this bow's significantly heavier. I mean, it's nice to draw. It feels good. It's a nice bow to pull. But in the grand scheme of things, like functionality wise, it's just like you said, 55 pounds doesn't matter if my arrow speed's not getting me what I want it to get. Like, as a recreational archer primarily, I want distance. Like, I want to be hitting at least 100 yards and being able to roll my sight out that far. And if I can't do that, then it doesn't matter what my poundage is.
But it is an interesting conversation because most men can walk in and pull 70 pounds with ease, and they don't have to worry about it. You can just pick up whatever bow you want. But specifically, smaller human beings or women and kids, you do have to turn to the numbers. Like you do have to look at that as kind of a main staple in what bow you're buying. And obviously, you want to be comfortable. But it's not always about which one you can draw more poundage or the draw. The draw cycle's way more comfortable. When you get into a lower poundage archer, there's a lot that goes into that, a lot of time and effort and thought process. Because like I said, when when you guys are pulling 80 pounds, I don't shoot 80 pounds because we shoot so often that it'd probably blow my shoulder out. But I pull 70-pound bow, 73 pounds, and I shoot a lot of 60-pound bows, completely maxed out. But I can draw any bow I pick up. I've drawn 85-pound bow, and it's not a big problem, but it is a whole different ballgame when you get into dealing with women and smaller people, smaller framed people. You really have to look at the numbers.
And that's what's really nice about being able to go into a shop with a woman, for instance, because by then, most of the time, I know what her goals are. So if her goals are hunting, like if she wants to be a hunter, then I'm going to pull specific bows that are going to give her the best speeds, the most impact, the most kinetic energy versus someone. I mean, obviously, as a recreational archer, you're looking for similar things, and then target archer is a whole nother ballgame. So it really is specific to what your goals are. What are you trying to accomplish with your equipment, and finding the right equipment to fit those needs.
Yeah. That weight number is interesting. I had this conversation with my dad recently, who's just doing recreational now. He doesn't plan to hunt, but he comes and does 3D with us every once in a while. And at the like 8th or 9th target, he's like, "All right, I'm kind of tired." And it's like, "Well, we can drop your draw weight." He's like, "No, I don't want to do that." Like, okay, all right, that works. So, Mel, you've said a couple of times, you're primarily recreational hunter. You mentioned that you were potentially going hunting last year. So can you talk to that? I guess the not hunting or planning to hunt, or I guess where you're at on that.
We just had this conversation today because I've been begging her to go.
So the first few years that I got really serious about archery, I love it because of the fitness aspect and because I get to shoot stuff. And it's also something that brought us together. Like I have so many reasons that I love being outdoors. I love being in the mountains. The first few years, I really had a Bambi complex. Like I love watching wildlife, and it was really hard for me to kind of get past that. Like I'm going to shoot this deer, and that may sound really stupid, but I think in working with a lot of women have that perspective at some point in their archery journey. And so I'm finally getting to the place where I feel like I'm past that. But I've always kind of, you're going to think this is ridiculous, but I hate birds. Like my whole life I've hated birds. There's nothing about a bird that brings any sort of joy to me. Like in some just like awful.
So she's getting an archery tactic.
So I've always said that I would happily kill a bird with a bow. So turkeys have always been on the table. We just have been so busy. Like once I kind of moved past that, I don't know. Once I finally felt confident enough in my skill level to feel comfortable shooting at something, we were building this house. And now that we're coming out on the other side, and I feel like my skill level is where it needs to be, because for me, ethics is a really big deal. I would 100% love to kill a turkey. I would love to go to Texas. We've been talking about, we've got some good friends down in Texas. I would love to go down and hog hunt. Like I love bacon, and I would be totally happy to just like shoot a hog. I'm still kind of in a weird place with deer and elk, just because the ones that are up behind our house, this is also a very female thing to say, but I've gotten to know a lot of them. Like, you see them in their family groups.
You've named them,
and
haven't you?
Just named them.
No. No. I really
Not that she's told anyone, at least.
Don't tell my secrets. You're ruining my whole persona as like a bad A woman. But there's still like this maternal part of me that I don't know. I do feel a lot more confident this year that I could hunt anything. Some of it is logistics.
I'll be buying her tags this year just in hopes that she'll go. I think after this last year when I took the kids up, Mel has always said she will never be the wife that goes up and just cooks at camp while everyone else go out and hunt. And I said, okay, let's start with you just packing stuff out. But when she came up there, she helped me pack the meat down from this deer. And I think seeing what it actually meant and seeing it firsthand, because she didn't grow up hunting. She didn't grow up fishing. Like, her family didn't do a lot of any of that. So
we like recreationally boated, and my dad was like, there are no fishing poles allowed on our boat. My dad hunted a little when I was a kid, and we shot guns in our backyard,
but to see that firsthand and see what it actually did from the moment we shot it, taking care of the meat, the kids being there, and then processing the meat, and then seeing that it's on the grill and we're eating it, I think brings a whole different perspective to what hunting really is. It's sustaining your life, right? It's moving away from the regular processed crap or the stuff you buy in the grocery store, and you're sustaining your family with something you know where it came from, you know what it's eating, you know where it's been, you know where it's at, and it's a dedication factor. Also, you see our kids are paying attention to the mountainside. They're watching what the patterns are of the animals. They're watching where they're at. They're watching the size of the animals as they grow, and they can watch how they get a little bit bigger. And hey, that's the one we saw last year. So there's a whole different process to when you're teaching your kids. And I think that's kind of driving her to the fact of, it's not just you going out and killing an animal. It's you going out and actually sustaining your family. There is a fun factor to it also. Like, I mean, there's a driving factor to it, but it's you going out and actually, you're putting the meat in your freezer of something that you went after and took time and effort and to get. So
that's actually a really good segue for one of our last questions here is, what's your trophy moment? We call it. We had that podcast with Joe Ellison, and he called it his trophy moment, right? It's just kind of stuck with us. It's a good question. So with your guys' is, and it could be hunting related or just archery, Mel, it's not hunting exactly, but what's your trophy moment? Like, what is that moment that keeps you coming back to either bow hunting or 3D shooting, whatever?
Is this a question for both of us?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you can both answer. But you have to do it at the same time.
Yes. Talk over the top of each other as quickly as possible on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Well, this is gonna sound probably. There's been so many really amazing moments that we've had together, but probably my trophy moment will be forever be the first big 3D event that we shot in Big Sky together. We talked a little bit about how archery brought us back together, and we had been married for almost 10 years, and we're really good best friends and roommates and co-parents, but we had absolutely nothing in common, and that was kind of creating a wedge between us. And when our story up to getting us both into bows and shooting is kind of long and involved, but once we both had archery equipment. We set up to go up to TAC Big Sky, and we had no idea what we were getting into. But for me, that was a moment where like he and I reconnected in something on a different level, and it is what blossomed into our entire journey. It's what brought us deep into archery. It brought us into sharing that with everyone, and then now it's brought us into providing for our family and teaching our children self-sustainability, as well as teaching them that you can chase your dreams and that you can help others along the way, and that you can make this beautiful community of people. Like, it just spirals. And so that will kind of always be like my pinnacle trophy moment when it comes to archery, because that's where it all spiraled into something really beautiful and bigger than we are.
I'd actually say the exact same thing. I was thinking about, we could have talked over each other, but I would say the same thing, because in reality, to see everything downstream of what's coming from that moment, like, we're now doing all of this stuff together. Our kids are getting involved in hunting, and our kids are wanting to shoot more, and they want to be involved in everything that we do in the aspect of what Eppich Archery is. I was gonna say my trophy moment was probably when she bought her second bow, because her first bow was the one I bought, that she's like, she tells every husband, you never buy a bow for your wife. And that was the first mistake I made. And when I saw her come back for the second bow, and knowing that she doesn't spend money, that was going to be my trophy moment, because that's when I knew that she was stuck and she was hooked. But I truly believe that the trophy moment was Big Sky, Montana attack event. It kind of made us what we are today, and drove everything downhill as to the hunting that we're doing, all of the lives that, I mean, she's taught, I would say she's taught over 400 people since we started this. And I don't even know, I can't even remember, kids and women, she's probably helped buy 200 bows. It's so cool that all of that could come from that one moment that we went to an archery event and hiking in the mountains, to now we're able to, like she said, fill our freezer and provide for ourselves. It's just really cool what all came from that one couple of days, that one weekend. So
we have a whole room full of bows. More bows and archery equipment than we know.
You know what? One thing I did want to mention, though, it's interesting, because I know your guys' podcast, you probably get more people that you talk to about hunting and actually, going after big animals and stuff like that. It's interesting
like real trophies. It's
interesting how the world of archery can be so close, but yet so convoluted and far apart. Because we've been shooting archery for almost 8 years now, and when we first came into the world of archery, I had buddies of mine. I actually joked with a buddy of mine just the other day, because he's the one that got me involved in archery, got me started, and he's a big hunter. And now we do more in archery than he'll ever even dream of doing. But he never would let me look at his bow. He never would let me tune his bow once I started getting more involved in archery, because he's like, you don't hunt. And it's interesting how that mindset of you don't hunt can get convoluted in archery and crazy to me. And our journey ultimately got to that point where we hunt and we go out and we provide for ourselves. But archery can be so far apart, but yet so close together. How whether you're a target shooter, a recreational shooter, a hunter, how all those actually tie together. Because if you think about the reason TAC is so popular, it's because almost every scenario is a hunting scenario. And that's why so many hunters do that. And it's so cool where that came from. And now, we look back, and I had another guy just tell me just the other day, he's like, are you ever going to hunt? I'm like, dude, I shot a buck last year. And he's like, you did? I'm like, yeah, I shot a buck last year. I'm like, but because I don't hunt doesn't mean I don't know anything about archery, or I'm not part of this awesome, amazing group, and like I said, it's interesting how that divide is actually coming closer together. the more you see like these big events like TAC and all these 3D events, you guys have watched it because you guys do all of them too. But how many people are getting involved in, and now we wish that most of them wouldn't get involved because everyone's starting to hunt, and it's every animal tag is a limited entry now, and it's a draw, and it's just gotten crazy. But it's just interesting to watch that divide get smaller, where when, like I said, only 8 years ago, it was like, you're a target archer, you're a recreational archer, or you're a hunter. And it's like, it's meshing now, and it's pretty cool to watch that.
And that's kind of been part of our mission, is like trying to help everyone in the arena and outside the arena see that there is a beautiful place for you, regardless of what your passion is inside of the archery realm. Like, if you just want to be a target archer, great. If you just want to be a recreational archer, that's awesome. But if you meld into the target side, you're going to become an even better archer, which is going to benefit you in the recreational range. And then if you move into the hunting range, that's going to make you an even better hunter. And so having that respect that if you just want to be one of those things, that's great. But we can build off of each other in all of those arenas to become the very best that we can be in this industry. And having respect for everybody who's doing it. So
and that's why, like with the School of Hard Knocks, when we take people out, is I tell them, you're going to show up how you hunt.
Yep.
Because I don't want you out there with the hip quiver if you're not going to hunt. If you're going to hunt with a hip quiver, and that's, you're exactly how you're going to shoot 3D is exactly how you're going to hunt. Good luck to you. I will do my best to teach you what you need to know on how to shoot. But that's kind of, the School of Hard Knocks program we put together it's the blend of those, of target instruction with your hunting setup. Big proponent of practicing like you play, and the more that you use that equipment, the more you know it, the better it's going to be for you, the better you're going to be for it. So it's a big thing, and I definitely think that's a really good point to touch on.
Yep.
Well, we really admire all the things that you guys have done. I think the School of Hard Knocks is amazing, and it's such a great opportunity for people. So kudos to you for putting that together. We, of all people, know what event planning and putting on educational experiences, the toll it takes, and the back time that it takes that nobody ever sees. And so I think it's such an awesome thing that y'all have put together to provide and improve people's skill levels and abilities. So
thank you.
Oh, yeah. All right. So now the very last question that we've been asking everybody on the podcast is, if you've got advice for somebody, I guess, who's just, normally it would be like somebody who's just got into hunting, but somebody who's just got into archery, or hunting, or whatever you want to say. The mistake that you made or the lesson that you learned that you would not wish someone have to make on their own.
You want me to give you
your say what?
Always be ready. Practice and always be ready, because I can't tell you the amount of times when I went out hunting this last year, I did not spend enough time sighting in and tuning for my broadheads. The shot placement that I made was not anywhere near what I should have made. And it's the same thing with target, with recreational, with hunting, is know your equipment and be ready with, and be not, I guess, learned, or be ready with the equipment that you're going to use. Because I feel like that's the biggest mistake across the board. We were joking earlier about guys that have come in and said, hey, I haven't picked my bow up since last year, it's hunting season, can you just look at it and tune it real quick? The worst thing across the board that you could do is pick up your bow right before the season and think that you're going to be successful, because you're not confident in your equipment. So always be, I don't know how I want to put that, but always be ready, or always be prepared with the equipment that you have. Know your stuff, know your equipment.
So his answer is drastically different than but mine is from a female perspective. So my number one don't do it thing is don't try to learn from your spouse or don't try to teach your spouse. Find someone else. And that's not because we had like any major conflict by any means.
She shoots better than I do. So.
That's not true. But find someone who outside of your immediate family unit can help you learn the basics. Very first thing, like learn the foundational principles of archery correctly first so that you can build on that foundation. I don't know how many archers I see with really big flaws to their form that are potential lifelong injury or risk factors because they didn't build the right foundation. And a lot of times it's much better to learn that foundation from someone outside of your immediate family.
That's a pretty overwhelming, overrunning advice too. I do some whitewater kayaking, and the number one thing everyone said was, don't learn it from your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, because you won't be afterwards.
So that's my number one. Learn correct form. Figure things, like take the time so that you have injury prevention and enjoy the sport with your spouse or significant other, but don't try and teach them or learn from them.
Yeah, Ethan, stop trying to teach me.
No, you have so much you need to learn, Jed.
It's funny, when Ethan and I first started shooting together, I couldn't coach my wife, but he could.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we're too close now, so he can't coach my wife either.
So he can't either.
Now the way we coach Nikki is we start arguing over just pointless things, and she just starts 12 ringing, just on
Lights
the dot.
Well,
apparently her white noise
can help you. Most women do really well when Mel starts talking. So
awesome. Well, thanks guys for being on with us. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you, all your socials and whatnot.
Okay, you can find us. We primarily are Instagram at Eppich Archery Unleashed, but we have the same handle across all platforms. So Instagram, we're probably the most active and responsive, but we also are on YouTube. We have a Facebook page. We have a Threads. We have a TikTok. Is that all?
I don't have anything. It's
Yeah.
just
If there's a platform out there, we're probably on it, and it's just our handle is at Eppich Archery Unleashed, but it's EPPICH. Our last name is Eppich, so Eppich Archery Unleashed.
Perfect. All right. Well, this podcast has been epic. Thanks, guys.
You saved it for the end of that.
I did. I had to. I couldn't. It hurt me not to, so just had to go for it. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and reach out to us at redpatchoutdoors@gmail.com. Yeah, thanks for listening.